What is going on out there, peeps? All right, I know everybody's excited. We're excited to see what is going on. We know the so-called reform papers or the white papers have been submitted, so we're going to cover that. All right. There's a handful of things going on that we need to be paying attention to, of course. Remind everybody that if you're thinking about buying precious metals, please give our friends over at Money Metals Exchange a consideration. The link is in the description. If you're a first-time buyer and you buy $100 or more worth of precious metals, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free ½ ounce of silver. Over here we have Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. We talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. No politics. Bring that over to here, which is the hidden things in front of your eyes. Over here, we talk about politics, current events, QAnon, NESARA, GESARA, 9/11, false flag events, the whole 9 yards. Just be respectful of one another. And if you got Twitter and you want to come hang out with me over there, the link is in the description. So the link is in the description for both Facebook groups as well as Twitter. All right, let's get into the news. So what's going on? So pay attention to this because people, again, still don't understand what these mean. So the parliamentary finance begins with an audit of the white papers. So listen to what they're saying because people have to get a better understanding of what's really going on. I know there's a lot of chitter-chatter out there, so let's clear it up. So the deputy chairman of the finance committee announced on Tuesday the examination of the white papers for economic reform handed over by the finance minister Alawi to the House of Representatives has begun. Pay attention to that part. We received the economic reform papers that was termed the white papers from the Minister of Finance, Alawi, to present it to the Finance Committee, audit it, make observations about it, review it with the Ministries of Finance, and planning in preparation for presentations to Parliament. So basically what that means is the reform papers have been submitted for review, not implementation. They're telling you they need to review it and then prepare a presentation to give to Parliament, in which the general framework of the paperwork were discussed. The Finance Committee will study the reform paper and will work to support any realistic trends that serve the Iraqi economy and contribute finding urgent solutions to the economic crisis, with the need to pay attention to radical solutions that put the country's economy on a safe path. So now they have the paperwork. They need to review it before they present it to Parliament. For some strange reason, I have a feeling that this presentation might not happen until after the elections. Now, that has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to do anything about the exchange rate. I do realize that the reform papers have talks about the exchange rate in there, but that doesn't mean they have to wait for them to be approved or presented to do something about those. If they wanted to, for whatever reason, can change the exchange rate without the white papers or the reform papers being implemented. Okay, I'm just saying, we know the talk about them is in there. It could be something inside the reform papers or the white papers that they see that they go, look, this needs implemented right away, without the rest of it being implemented. All right, so just keep that in mind, because there's a huge part of me that tells me, and it's just speculation, you guys. There's something about this that tells me that they might indeed be waiting for the, maybe not, but maybe the early election. Al-Kazemi will make a European tour next week, and the development of U.S. forces, deployment of U.S. forces outside Iraq is underway. Very interesting. So, a spokesman for the Prime Minister revealed today the time limit for the white papers. The task of the current government is to prepare for the holding of early elections. The white papers is considered a development of the wrong policies during the past decades, noting that the time limit for the white papers extends from 3 to 5 years for its implementation. Let me read this because, again, I don't want you guys to misunderstand what's being said. We understand that the talks about the exchange rate are in there. That doesn't mean that certain parts of the white papers couldn't be implemented sooner. Let me repeat what he just said. The white paper is considered a development. So what he's saying is the white papers are pointing out all the things that went wrong over the decades. Noting that, here we go, the time limit for the white paper extends from 3 to 5 years for its implementation. He pointed out the white paper is the basis for the future governments, not the current governments. Stressing the task of the current government is to prepare for early elections. So right now, as much as they got the reform papers and they need to go over them and they need to discuss what they need to do, the steps that need to be taken, right now their focus is on early election. The white paper or the reform papers are going to be reviewed over time and implemented later down the line for future governments. Now, I know when you hear that, people are like, oh my God, they're just kicking a can down the road. No. Listen, we know the talk about the exchange rate is in there. That doesn't mean that's going to keep them from exchanging the rate. They could do that at any time. So I just want people, again, when you hear good news, not get overly excited. And when you hear something that sounds like bad news, don't get overly bummed out. They are clearly telling you their number one goal right now is to focus on early elections, obviously get the budgets out. Okay, to be quite honest, yeah, it says right here again, the time limit for the white papers extends from 3 to 5 years for its implementation. The white paper is the basis for future governments, not the current one. The task of the current government is to prepare for early elections. So my guess is, look, they want to get out the Iranian-backed puppets who probably would run interference on these reform papers. Keep in mind, the status quo where they were prior to Al-Kazemi benefited Iran and the corrupt people. So obviously, whatever the framework is within the white papers, the reform papers, are not beneficial to Iran. Therefore, they're waiting for future governments to implement this. One of the vocabulary of the Baghdad Herbal Agreement on Sinjar is the search for female survivors or Turkmen women. There is intelligent cooperation with neighboring countries to return the largest number of abducted women. Al-Kazemi will go to Europe next week. The development of U.S. forces outside is underway. Or the deployment, again, development. The deployment of U.S. forces outside of Iraq is underway. A round of strategic dialogue will take place later to complete the steps taken in the previous 2 rounds. Again, Al-Kazemi going over to Europe to do what he needs to do to try to help Iran get established on an international scene. This is good. Alawi, we face dangerous repercussions, and the white paper is the roadmap, and a new method for autism is announced. What? Okay. Well, let's go over this. Sorry, I know. I drink. The Ministry of Finance, Alawi, confirmed on Tuesday facing dangerous economic repercussions, and a white paper is the roadmap. While he announced a new way to implement the automation system at the border crossing. Sorry about that. Let me put on my damn glasses. The white paper is a reform program for financial and economic affairs in Iraq. The main purpose of the white paper is to transfer the current economic compass access to a better future position that keeps pace with the development of the world. The white paper is directed at the economic and financial side, and one of its main axes is to reform the situation in the provinces. The border outlets are linked to the import movement and will not as important as oil, noting that Iraq's import is estimated to be $60 billion a year. So again, we know the oils are the main source for their economy, but look, these border crossings, the taxes and fees for the ports have been doing a great job of bringing in a lot of money. Them guys securing their borders to make sure nobody's sneaking in and out, and paying the fees really is helping out. Al-Kazemi taking the steps necessary to replace many of the corrupt senior position places and putting in new people has been a big help. The more automated they become, the better it is for them to detect corruption. That's why you're seeing all these changes. I remember an article that's about 2 years ago complaining that the way the bank system was set up was so outdated, it made it easy for corruption to take place. Iraq has international or regional obligations related to trade agreements, and controlling ports is important. And we have started in a serious way to implement the automation system. Again, that's what I'm talking about. The white papers will be a roadmap for subsequent budgets. Oil revenues are insufficient to cover salaries and retired requirements, but we will work to diversify the revenues, and they are. Kurdistan regional government pledges to disperse 5 delayed and saved salaries. So, again, this blows my mind when I read these articles sometimes. Okay, so it's going on to talk about how the rest of the year, once again, is supposed to be secure, the payments for the government. But in here, it also is talking about they also need to pay, look at this. It's talking about paying government officials that haven't been paid for the past 2 years or 3 years. That's just crazy to me. So in here, it says the 3 salaries of the 8 cabinets, the previous government, which were not paid, will remain as a financial commitment owed by the regional government, and the salaries for the remaining 2 months are waiting for an agreement between Baghdad and Erbil. For his part, the head of the financial committee in the regional parliament said in a press conference held after the meeting, visited the committee today, and we held a meeting with him. That took 4 hours to clarify the situation about the salaries for the month of September. Several questions were directed to him and answered them. The regional government is committed to paying financial dues for 3 saved salaries in 2016 and 17 as part of the reform. Okay, so salaries are what that article is about. Al-Kazemi's white paper reaches the Iraq Parliament. Did it because it just said they need to prepare it for the Parliament. A Parliament source said that the government reform papers had reached the Iraq Parliament. The source informed the news the reform papers that the Prime Minister described as the white papers has reached Parliament for vote. Yesterday, the news polished a copy of the white papers that included government reforms at the levels of economic and services. Al-Kazemi presented it during his meeting with the political blocs. So, in this article, it's saying Parliament has it to be voted on. Up above, it's saying the committee is preparing it for presentation to the Parliament. I know, it'll drive you crazy. The foreign ministers of Iraq, Egypt, and Jordan hold coordination meetings in Cairo. So these 3 countries, known as the tripartite meetings, are doing still getting together, ironing out what they need to do before it gets signed. It's all the same things: how they can help each other out economically, how to deal with the Rona, how to provide security, and how to do business together with one another. Baghdad and Kurdistan reached military and security understandings, and the joint operations revealed the details. Who's going to control what part of the borders? They're going to open up centers where between, so every so much in distance, you're going to open up centers so that these people can, again, secure the borders the best way possible. And if need be, the people could come to the centers. Also, that's where they would obviously change the guards. So that's what's going on in here. That's what it's talking about, and how to deal with ISIS as well as other armed militia. Al-Kazemi makes the first statement after his meeting with the political forces regarding the reform papers. The Prime Minister made his first statement regarding reform papers on Twitter. The White Reform Papers that we presented today to the political forces is a project for a solution to the chronic economic management, complete dependence on oil, and not to diversify sources of income. The interaction of the brothers in the political forces with the papers and its proposal betrays a responsibility towards our people that deserve to be praised. Al-Kazemi held a meeting with the political blocs in the presence of the Speaker of the Parliament, Halabasi, and the President of the Supreme Judicial to discuss reform papers. During the meeting, according to the statement, Al-Kazemi's office, which was attended by the Minister of Finance and Planning, a discussion of the reform white papers on overcoming the economic challenges that the country is going through, especially with regards to financial aspect. The size of the challenges faces Iraq, whether at the health level or the repercussions of the Rona, or at the economical levels of stifling financial crisis, or at the level of major security challenges. And he stressed, despite these pressures and obstacles the government is facing, it is determined to work hard to overcome the ordeals. The government has assigned specific duties that accumulate in early elections, and date has been set for them, and the election law has been finalized, and work is continuing with the election commission and the concerned authorities to conduct the elections on time, and thus we have responded to the will of our people and the rational reference. Okay, so again, you can see here, they are waiting for the elections first and foremost before these things can be implemented. Addressing economical challenges is not an easy task, and that the current crisis is systematic, not related to the government and its procedures, and it needs a real and radical reform and a long-term plan to overcome them, stressing the need for integration and the work between authorities to achieve what we seek. He also went on to say the reform papers indicating that the Parliament papers that need everyone's effort to develop it and to benefit from existing expertise in order to translate it into reality for a long-term work. Okay, so good. They have them. They're discussing them. We'll see where it goes from now. But you can see the reform papers aren't for anything that needs to be done immediately. These are done in stages. It's going to be implemented, you heard what they say, between 3 to 5 years. Right now, they're more focused on elections. All right, you guys? So don't read too much into this right now. That does not mean they can't change the rate at any time, because they can. We know the discussion of the rates are in the reform paper. We know there are other things within the reform paper. That doesn't mean that certain things within the reform paper couldn't be done right away. Like I said, I don't want you guys to get overly bummed when it's bad news or overly excited when it's good news. But make no doubt about it, some changes are coming. Again, for you newbies, I see posts in there all the time, and I'm thankful to you guys for putting the word out, because a lot of them keep asking, where can I buy Iraq Dinar or the Vietnam Dong? In my description under this video, you guys, you will see a link for UK Dinar FX. You can buy your currencies there. They ship anywhere internationally, because I got some of you guys in other countries who said you can't get it there. So here you go. This is the best place to go. They also allow my subscribers a discount code. So if you guys want to save some money on your purchase, use discount code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and save some money. Okay, you guys, so look, again, I see there's a lot of confusions in the group, so I wanted to come over here and say in the video and iron it out. I know you guys were told all kinds of things by different YouTubers. I hate that word, guru. That this thing was the be-all, end-all, the white reform papers, that this is going to happen, the rate was going to happen, the rate change before the end of the year. I know you were told that. That's what happens. We've heard that from other people before. I mean, we've heard all kinds of rumors about rate change. We heard about, when the ISX opens back up, and it didn't happen. Or when the auction starts up again, it didn't happen. We hear about specific dates. Then we hear, what was it, August? We heard about August. It never happened. We heard about September the 15th, and then it was the 18th. It didn't happen. That's why you don't do rate dates, and that's why you don't do rates. That's why we pay attention to what's going on and not listening to a bunch of crap being blown up your butts. I know there's guys out there talking about, it's already going on. There's back screens and tier 1s and tier 3s, and my military intel tells me. Or you got my favorite. I have talked to the new elites and the old elites along with the aliens, and they are going to change the rate. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. All those people. So just be careful. Pay attention to what's going on. This isn't bad news, because somebody was saying in there, oh, kicking the can. They're not kicking the can down the line. The reform papers are going to be implemented over time. But again, that doesn't mean they can't just change the rate tomorrow if they wanted to. And no, I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying that doesn't mean that they can't. They can. Okay? All right, you guys. So that's it for now. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel. And I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later.